rebuilding. A catastrophic failure, a new start, physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40. We focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, and welcome back to episode 144 of the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Look at your surroundings. We talked earlier about, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. If you're hanging out with 4 losers, you become the 5th loser, all that kind of cool stuff. Sometimes we need to look a little bit deeper. We need to look at our surroundings as well. Where are we spending our time? Where are we, expending our life energy? Is it positive or is it negative? Often when we want to make changes, I think one of the reasons why we fail is because we don't look deeper. We don't look at what's going on around us. If you're in a caustic, negative atmosphere all the time, it's going to be really hard to pull yourself out of that. It's going to be hard to improve yourself when you've got all these pressures around you, all these influences around you that are pushing you in the opposite direction. So is it positive? If it is, odds are you already made some changes. Odds are you've adjusted some of those things to put yourself in that place. Is it where you want to be? Are we comfortable? And sometimes I think that's the other thing that gets us in a lot of unhappiness, is that we're in a position where we're actually comfortable. We want to do better, but you know what? Life isn't too bad where we're at right now. It's warm inside or cool inside, depending on where you are season-wise. No one's starving. Bills are getting paid. Everyone's pretty much okay with what's happening. You kind of want to make some changes, but there's not enough outward pressure, external pressure, to keep you wanting to move forward. So sometimes being too comfortable will get in the way as well. Does it challenge you? Do your surroundings challenge you? Do they make you have to become a better person, a better version of yourself? It's all well and good to sit there and say, hey, I want to be better at this. I want to be better at that, at who I am and how I'm improving things. But if we don't put ourselves in surroundings that challenge us, that make us somewhat uncomfortable, then we don't have some of that force pushing us in the right way. So, you don't want to be in a negative surrounding. You don't want to be in a situation that's making it very difficult for you to improve. However, you do want some discomfort. You do want to be in a position where you have to do better. So I think looking at your surroundings becomes very important. Ideally, you want to be in a situation that's positive yet challenging. You don't want to be too safe, but you don't want to be at risk all the time either. And I think that is where we need to look at things. So some of the ways that we can change our surroundings to challenge us is taking on a new adventure, taking on a new endeavor, forcing ourselves to commit to something where we have to follow through. We see it in the gym a lot, where people come in, and depending on the level of buy-in that they come in with, really has a big factor on how well they're going to do with their goals and the changes they want to do. We talked a few episodes earlier about being emotionally attached to what you're doing. Well, one of the things to do that is to put you in a situation where you have to be emotionally attached. We talk a lot about people having a hard time struggling about not being where they want to be. But I think what's happened too, though, is that people aren't hungry anymore. People aren't cold anymore. There's something to be said for having to hustle to make sure that rent gets paid. There's something to be said to having to hustle to make sure that, you can make your ends meet. Because if you don't, those ends don't get met. That sort of discomfort, I think, is important because it makes us have to get up. It makes us want to do a better job. It makes us want to be more successful because we have to become successful. So what if we turn around and look at the challenges or the goals that we have, even though we're, for the most part, most people listening here are in a fairly somewhat comfortable position, hopefully. right? You're not living on the streets. But what if we turned around and said, what if I put enough emotional attachment to these goals that I have to the point where you become physically uncomfortable if you're not moving towards them? Where it becomes that important for you to succeed. As important as it is to make sure the rent gets paid, to make sure there's food on the table, to make sure there's clothes on your back, on your family's back. Those are some big, motivators, right? Those are things that we just have to get met. And for most of us, we at least rise to that level. Some don't, right? But most of us rise to that level. So if we can put the importance to that level on what we're doing, what we want to achieve, the weight loss we want to have, or to the strength increases we want to have, or to changing our habits to make us better, more fulfilled, increasing our income, whatever your goal is, if we can make it to the point where we're that obsessed with it and that emotionally attached to it, where we will become uncomfortable every day if we're not moving towards it, you'll be a lot more successful. But I think to do that, we also have to put ourselves in a surrounding that'll support us to do that, right? I run into a lot when people are trying to eat. We were talking last night with some of the Silverbacks, and we're talking about meal prep. And at the end of the day, if you're not prepping your meals, you don't have the right foods ready, it's really hard for you to eat properly and be successful. It just is. But one of the challenges, one of the Silverbacks was talking about the night before, or last night, was that how he does the cooking for the house. And he gets pressure from his spouse and his kids because they like to eat this way, they like to eat that way. And I looked at him and I said, well, if that's not good eating for you, why would it be good eating for them? Right? I have 2 teenage kids. There's junk food in the house. But for the most part, we eat a lot of meat. We eat a lot of vegetables. We eat very good food. And they're skinny 15 and 17-year-olds, so they can handle having a bag of chips when they want to have a bag of chips. They're on the ice 3-4 times a week. They're active and that kind of thing. But it's not their only fuel source. We've never sat down and said, hey, listen, at supper time, we're going to make 3 different meals for 4 different people in the house. Right? That's not the environment in our house. My kids grew up eating steak, chicken, pork, vegetables. Right? We set that. Now, for me, I just happen to eat too much of that. That's where I deal with my weight, my weight issues and stuff. However, I can see though for this Silverback last night, you could tell it was bothering him because it is a challenge. And in the fine line, I'm trying to make sure is this one of the challenges he has to overcome to be successful in what he wants to do in his weight loss, or is it a slight challenge that's becoming an excuse? And I don't know the guy enough yet to know, where it is yet. And we'll know, the next week or two, because we had some talks. We came up with some plans last night, some action things that he can do. We'll see what he does with it. And if he moves forward and makes those changes and attempts to keep pushing that and getting better at it, then I'll know it's not an excuse. It truly is an environmental thing. That's just the way it is. That's the way it is in his surroundings. I have a lot of spouses that'll turn around and be 100% supportive of their husbands because they want them to lose 40, 50 pounds because they care for them. They want them to be happier and healthier. They've probably been hounding them for them to eat better for the last while anyway. It's a big difference in that surrounding. Now, some of those surroundings, it's kind of hard just to change your spouse because you guys don't agree on a food plan, right? If that's the case, then there's probably a lot of other issues going on before that. But at the very least, it shouldn't be too hard to get on the same page with that. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen it too because, in dealing with, everything at Hostile with the different men and women in the situations, I have run into situations where the wife is trying to lose 40, 50 pounds and the husband thinks it's funny that he sits on the couch and eats a bag of chips beside her while she's trying to eat better. But that's indicative of some big fucking problems that's going on in that area that has very little to do with what's being fed, what people are eating, and more about the passive, aggressive, the control, that kind of thing. That's a pretty shitty, unhealthy surrounding. And 9 times out of 10, when I hear that kind of shit's going on, I know for a fact that relationship is fucking doomed. Or there's a lot of work to be done on that. Because that's a whole different level of just caustic relationship that's happening. But it's the surroundings that make such a big difference. So what we want to do is we want to sit back and take a look at things. And what can I change? What can I improve in my surroundings? What conversations do I need to have with my inner circle? When I say inner circle, I'm talking about your family, your spouse, your kids. Because don't forget, too, if you want to make these positive changes, and that's all well and good, right? They might not be ready yet. Or there'll be a learning curve, an adjustment period for them as well. And that adds some pressure. And sometimes that's where people want to back off because it's a lot of pressure. But I'd rather have some pressure moving towards a positive outcome for everybody involved than have the negative pressure of not getting the things that you need done, not getting healthier, not getting better, not improving, and then dealing with the fallout from that, which is poor health, poor energy, low self-esteem, poor confidence, and then we'll fill the voids with negative things. So there's a spiral. Either one of those two scenarios is uncomfortable, but at least the one where it's a little rough to make the changes and there's an adaptation period and you got to push through that, that's leading to something on the other side that's much more positive. That when you get there, will make everybody better. Will improve those surroundings overall. So look at your surroundings. And don't forget too, right? I was going to say 9 times out of 10, I like to make stats up like that. But most often than not, you have a big effect on your surroundings as well. And you've created those surroundings. You've been part of that architecture that's caused that surrounding to be less than optimal for what it is, for what you want to do. So you own some responsibility there. There's some changes you have to make. It's all well and good to come home and say, you know what, I'm tired of coming home to a messy house. But if you're the fucker that's causing half the mess, right, your actions have to change as well. If you want to improve your finances, but you're the one spending out of control just as much as everybody else is, you have to make some changes. So you can't turn around and just say, hey, my surroundings suck. I'm just going to step back 100% from it and move on to better things. Don't forget, you've created a lot of that. You've created it by your actions. You've created part of it by your inactions, what you've allowed to happen. You're just as responsible. So look at your environment, look at your surroundings, take ownership of it, and then start making some of the changes. What are the things? There's going to be things that can be changed right away that are easy. Start with those. Then there's going to be some things that are going to take a little more time, a little more planning, a little more conscious effort by everybody involved. If you live on your own, then it's a lot easier to make some of those changes, but maybe part of that problem with those surroundings is that you do live on your own. And you've got some void and some loneliness, so you're filling it with other things that are less than positive. So at the end of the day, look at what's happening in your surroundings, take an inventory of it. What can you change right away? What changes do you need to make in yourself? And I'll tell you, as you start to improve those surroundings and you make those surroundings more positive that allow you to be challenged, it's going to be a lot easier. Attaining your goals is going to be a lot easier. If you're trying to lose weight and every time you come home there's fucking a box of donuts on the table, it's not good. You can have, we talked about it before, you can have all the willpower you want, but willpower will wane, and those rituals and your surroundings will take over. Just don't be the guy that's the one buying the fucking donuts in the first place. I don't drink, coming up on 4 years sober. In fact, when is this coming out, Luke?
This is November 15th.
November 15th, I will be past the 4-year mark of being sober. There's still booze in our house. Because I don't want to make it to the point where I have to sit there and just have all that stuff removed to make it so that, my wife can't have the odd drink. However, if it was that crucial and I had to make the house alcohol free for a year or two until I got over that certain hump, if that's where my issues were, of course I would have done it. But how I'm dealing with my recovery is different for me, but it's just my circumstance. So I don't sit there and look at the liquor cabinet in a longing fashion. But at the same token, I don't go and buy the beer in a beer store. I don't go and pick up any alcohol for my wife. My son drinks a little bit now. He's coming of age. I don't go and buy them the beer. That's not going to happen. Right? But at the same token, you know, I'm in an environment that's positive. I'm in an environment that's supportive of that change I had to make as well. So you have to look at your surroundings and see what's going on. Make your surroundings, prepare yourself. It's like anything else. If you make things in a way that'll support your endeavors, it's going to be easier for you to do it. If every time you go in your office to do some work and your fucking desk is a write-off, it's going to take you 20 minutes just to find what you're looking for. And that eats into your time and your effectiveness. We're going to talk about that in a couple upcoming episodes. We're going to talk about time, how to make it more effective. But one of the ways to do it is to have a better surrounding, to be a little more organized, to start and go from there. So like we talked about, your circle of influence makes a big difference. Who you hang out makes a big difference in your who you are, right? And if you want to become someone different or get better or improve, those things have to change. Your surroundings as well. We need to look at where we're spending our time. What's around us? Everything from our home, our bedrooms, our office, where we work, where we play. All those are your surroundings. All those need to be scrutinized and looked at to see, is this the best part of my day for me to be spending my time for what I want to do? Spend some time, look at things, figure some stuff out, and make some changes. That's all I have to say for now on that, guys. Head on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review. Head on over to hostilegear.com, use the code word Silverback to save 20% off some clothing, which will definitely affect your surroundings. And as always, guys, work hard, motherfuckers, and I'll talk to you guys later.